Hey, what's up, guys? I'm back with Heidi. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
We're at a brewery here in Cebu City, a craft brewery. It's the only one, right?
No, there's actually a couple of breweries here, but this is, I think, the best one where it's very laid back.
Let's give it a shout out. What's the name of the brewery?
Turning Wheels Brewery.
If you're in Cebu.
Yeah,
Good beer.
in Cebu here.
We're going to do an interesting video today. So if you guys have been following my channel, I've done a couple with Heidi. She's with C&G Consulting for all your visas and marriage licenses and stuff like that. And there was a ton of questions in the comment section that didn't get around to answering all of them, so we thought we'd make a video. Heidi's gonna give her best responses to these questions. Most of it's related to marrying a Filipina. A lot of the questions came about that.
Well, they're all coming here to marry a Filipina, it looks
so,
like.
Yeah. There's some other ones too, but we'll just dive right into it. All right, Heidi, here we go. Kind of random order here, but this is what I got off my videos here. So one person wanted you to talk about the documentation that proves you are single. They heard about this, it's got a name, how do you get it? What's that all about?
Okay, so I'm just speaking here in general out of every country, right? So there are actually two documents that can prove that you are single. One is a certificate capacity to, sorry.
She's only had a half a beer.
Yeah, sorry. So it's called legal capacity to contract marriage. I'm so sorry about that. It's a very long name. Legal capacity to contract marriage. So you can get this for U.S. nationals. You can actually get this. It has to be notarized at the U.S. Embassy. Next would be your Sinomar or certificate of no marriage. You have to get at the Philippine Statistics Office here in the Philippines, which you can also order online. So just go to PSA Helpline or East or Bilis. This will actually help you get the certificate of no marriage, just so we know that you're not married in your country and you're not married here in the Philippines. These are two things. And if you were formerly divorced, of course, the Philippine government will be asking for your divorce papers. Make sure your divorce papers, when you bring it here, it's actually apostilled, so that we can confirm that you are actually divorced and not making it up, not having wives broken in different countries.
Important stuff.
Important stuff. Some people do that, by the way.
Yeah, don't do that, guys.
Don't do that.
All right, cool. Well, that's a great answer. Thanks for asking that question. Let's move on. So how long is the process of getting married typically? There was a lot of comments that talked about how it can be a nightmare as far as the process and the timing. That was kind of my next thing. Marriage certificate delays and challenges. Are you familiar with the process and time frame?
Yes, I think the only delay that it will cost you is because there's, depending on the municipality, right? So in general, you actually have to attend certain meetups or what do you call that? Those things where they basically orient you on how marriage life is like. Sometimes if you do it in a church, you have to do it in a church. Or sometimes you have to do it at the city health office. So most likely there's going to be two of these. Depending, if you have all of your requirements and you can comply with all of these orientations, then you should be good to go. But the longest part would be the posting, because they have to post it in a conspicuous area in the municipal hall that you're actually getting married and there are no protests against this marriage. So it could take up to 10 to 14 days depending on where you are. But normally we've done a marriage license in about 2 weeks.
Really?
So that was the fastest one,
So the main thing then is, for these delays, maybe they don't have all of their ducks in a row. They don't have all the paperwork, and then that sets them back. Is that kind of the main thing?
Ideally, just put up at least 3 to 4 weeks to be able to do this, because once your marriage license is approved, you do have to wait for, the schedule of the priest or the schedule of the mayor or the schedule of the judge where you're going to get married. So these are things that you have to watch out for. Just have all your documentations, and depending on where you are, I would suggest to just going to the municipal hall and asking for the marriage license requirements, because it does vary per municipality.
Got it. Just thinking back to what you answered before about the legal capacity to marry and all that. Can you get that stuff here at the embassy? Did you say that?
Yes.
You can get it here. You don't have to go back to the country, to your own country, to get any of that stuff.
Yes. Okay. So just go into the website of the U.S. Embassy here in the Philippines, and there are several appointments that you can book, but make sure to book them at least a month ahead, because the appointments do get full very quickly. So it will be on the website, like legal capacity to contract marriage. Just go into notarization. Fun fact, during COVID, they actually allowed Filipino notary publics to do the legal capacity to contract marriage.
Really?
It's just this year they don't allow that anymore, and you have to get it notarized at the U.S. Embassy.
Oh, okay. What about the other thing that proves you're single? Certificate of singleness. That's the Senmar?
Sinomar, certificate of
Sinomar.
I wish it was like that.
Certificate
It would
of
make
singleness.
things easy.
So can you get that at the embassy too?
No, certificate of no marriage, you can get it here in the Philippines. So you get
Oh.
it at the Philippine Statistics Authority. Just
For
search.
and like an American person
for
can
an
get it here?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. So
okay.
it's just making sure that you don't have a current registered marriage here in the Philippines. So you get it at you can get it online. You can have it sent it to you. So just search PSA Senomar. That's CENOMAR.
Oh, okay.
Senomar, certificate of no marriage, because Filipinos, we love our our shortcuts to words.
For sure.
Senomar, and that's how you prove that you're single here in the Philippines.
What about proving you're single back in your country?
So that is the legal capacity to contract
Okay.
marriage.
All right.
Yes, and your divorce
Learning,
papers.
All right, lots to learn here. So moving on, we have a question about the 13A renewing every 5 years. How much does it cost? Is it a one-time fee? Is it every 5 years you have to renew and pay? So it's not like a permanent thing. You have to renew it.
It's just your ACRI card that you have to renew. So it's like
Oh.
$50 per time that you need to go there.
So
and
the
get your
13A
ACRI
is a
card.
one-time.
It's a one-time, yeah. No, it's actually a two-tier process. So
Okay.
first is 13A probationary, which you get for a year. Ideally, 3 months before it expires, you can go into 13A permanent. And then after you get a 13A permanent, you get 5 years. You just have to renew your ACRI card. So that's around $50.
Okay.
But yeah, the cost of getting a 13A is actually the cheapest visa you can get here in the Philippines.
Okay.
So marrying a Filipina has its plus.
There you go. It's a small investment.
Yeah.
Can you describe what the 13A is for those that don't know?
Okay, so 13A is actually your spousal visa here in the Philippines. So for people who are married, for expats who are married to Filipinos, normally Filipinas, you get this 13A as part of the privileges of being married to a Filipino spouse. So you get this, it's like a permanent residency here in the Philippines where you can also work, you can live here permanently, multiple entry and exits, but this is dependent on your wife. So your wife is the petitioner to this application. So for example, you break up and something bad happens and you're not in good good relationship with your wife anymore. Your wife could just be like, I don't want to sponsor this guy anymore. Can we stop the sponsorship? Yeah,
Oh, they
that's
can.
the thing. Yeah, so
Someone asked that.
yeah, so please be nice to your wives.
Wow, they can just cut it on you at any point.
Yeah, and if they, yeah, but also at the same time, if your country allows divorce, you can actually also divorce your wife in your country and just declare it here back in the Philippines.
And you're
so
out.
And you're out.
Clean
it's a two-way
slate.
streak. Yeah, two-way streak. So just
But that doesn't mean she's divorced because she has to go through a different process here.
yeah, so you have to declare the divorce done in your country here in the Philippines.
Wow.
It's a judicial declaration of divorce here in the Philippines.
Gotcha.
So that's how both of you can go in your separate
Screw
ways.
each other.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. We always get into this. And
Yeah,
we're talking about
I know.
there's pros and cons to everything. You got to look at both
Yeah.
sides.
But
Good to know.
I normally ask, so a lot of clients ask me, what's better, getting a 13A or SRRB? So
Hmm.
that really depends on you. Are you confident, and we never know what happens, right? Are you confident that your wife is not
Oh, good
gonna
point.
screw you over?
So you can do either one.
You can do either
be
one.
married to a Filipina and just get an SRRB.
Yeah.
Retirement visa.
Yeah.
Do your own thing.
Yeah, and I normally recommend the SRRB because the merit is with you, right? Like no one can
I'm
be
glad
like,
you
I
brought
don't
that
want
up,
this anymore.
guys.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to consider.
Yes.
Would that tick off your Filipina though?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you getting a 13A?
I don't know. It just depends on
What
you.
does that mean? Yeah.
That's a conversation for them to have.
And you know what? If you're a good couple, you should be able to talk about that openly, and it
Exactly.
shouldn't be a problem, right?
Exactly.
Let's go to the next thing that's controversial and for some people, prenups.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's comfortable with that conversation for, maybe obvious reasons.
Yes.
What is the whole thing with prenups here in the Philippines?
I know prenup is such a sensitive topic because it's so unromantic, right? Like if you
Sure.
love me, you gotta, trust me 100%. But like, that's not the reality of life right now. You gotta be practical. You gotta watch out for yourself. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the one at the losing end.
Sure.
Even if, you went on it with love and everything. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. But you gotta be practical. So it might be unromantic, but I'm a staunch believer of prenups, especially for expats.
Coming from a Filipina. Yeah.
Yes, it's I've seen so many foreigners get scammed in the country, so
Yeah.
if you're gonna get married, please get a prenup.
So they do all that here too.
They do all that here, so you can
Yeah.
just go to a lawyer and figure out what type of prenup you want. So there are some prenups there are legal terms to this, but I'll just keep it simple. So there's a prenup where there's really division of property. So any property that you have when you go into the marriage is very much separate. There are also prenups where what you had before the marriage is yours, but what you build within the marriage is 50-50. And if you don't get a prenup, it's 50-50. So what you have, your spouse also has.
100%.
So if you
Right
ever
down the
break
line.
up, then it's straight down the line.
Everything you've earned in your past and
Yeah.
everything is half hers.
Yeah, that's the default if you don't have a prenup.
Gotcha.
If you have a prenup, you can decide who owns what at the very beginning. And yeah, I've had a client before. He's not currently divorcing his wife. No, not divorced, but filing an annulment with his wife. And he was so happy that he got a prenup because she was like, "Oh, you need to give me like 1,000,000 pesos and the car and everything else." And he's like, "Nope, I have a prenup. I bought all of this. You can't have any of this."
Wow. So,
Yeah.
personal question then, just your preference. Do you think a prenup conversation should happen early on and sort of be upfront? Do you think a guy should just throw that out there right away when you say, "Okay, let's get into a relationship. However, I want you to know this about if we ever get married." Or
Yeah.
talk about it towards closer conversation to marriage. What do you think?
No, if you already plan on getting married to this person, I think you should be able to have that conversation. Because
But what if it's before that? You're just starting to get serious with each other. Is that too soon, or should you be upfront and not just like throw it out there way down the road?
I mean, for me, I believe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, I date to marry. Like, we need to have these conversations at the very beginning because if you're not going to be agreeing to
Okay.
what we're going to have
Sure.
in the future, then what's the point of us even dating, right?
Right.
So I think you got to get the hard conversations
It's part of
out of the way.
big topic. Do you want
Yeah.
kids? Are you like
Are you
important
financially
things?
stable? Like,
Yeah.
are you going to be okay with me having a prenup?
It's all part of that
Yeah.
first big conversation.
And I always believe that if they love you enough, they're gonna be okay with it. Because why would they marry you in the first place and not, are they just after you for the money? So this is how you
almost a
make
good
sure.
test, too.
Yeah, this is how you make sure they're not after you
Right.
for the money. And
So true.
as a personal boundary, you're also protecting yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
It's fair. It's reasonable.
Yeah.
And glad we brought it up for you guys to think about. All right, moving on. Prenup, and then moving on to, can you use a passport instead of a birth certificate to get married if someone loses their birth certificate? Someone asked that.
Is it an expat or a Filipino?
An expat foreigner
Yeah,
doesn't
you-
have a birth certificate.
You need your birth certificate. This
Ah,
is part of the
okay.
requirements as a general for all the requirements for any municipality or
Okay.
city that you're gonna apply for your marriage license.
All right, guys, get your birth certificates ready.
Yeah.
Can you, I already asked that one, legal capacity. Someone said, isn't there a new divorce law in the Philippines? Is there anything new that you know of?
No, this is still a bill.
Okay.
Hasn't been passed yet. I mean, I know that when you come here, it may not seem like the Philippines is still a conservative country because things you're exposed to, but the Philippines is still a 100% Catholic country. So divorce is going to be something that's going to be really hard for this country to push. It may not happen soon, but it's going to happen at some point. But I don't think it's going to happen soon. I mean,
Okay.
the reproductive health bill in the Philippines took 13 years to get approved.
Wow.
So, and that's like going against the church, because of contraceptives
Right.
and stuff. So we're still a very Catholic country. So I think divorce is going to be another hurdle, or it's going to take some time to get
Several years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, as I mentioned before, and a lot of people are fighting me about this, but this is actually a Supreme Court ruling back in 2018 where if you were married to a Filipina and you divorce her in your country, just bring that divorce back to the Philippines, have it declared, and you should be able, that is a way for you to have the divorce. But it's not done in the Philippines because divorce is not allowed. It's being done in your country and just declared here.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, man, you really know everything, don't you?
No,
I'm just
I
throwing
don't.
these random questions at you, and you have like a well thought out answer for all of it. All right,
It's the beer.
permanent beer helps definitely. This is a better setting, eh?
Yeah, it is.
This is how all interviews should be at a
Hey,
brewery.
it's
drinking
my
beer.
birthday, so-
And on your birthday, working on your birthday, but you're drinking beer, so
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. Going through some redundant questions. Probation. Did you kind of talk about that? 13A. Someone said, is it probationary for a year?
Yeah,
You
it
mentioned
is
something like
probationary for a year.
that. Okay.
Just 3 months before it expires, get it renewed. Please don't be late in renewing your probationary because the worst thing that could happen is you start again. So you really have to renew it the day before it expires. So that's why I recommend 3 months before, so you have all your ducks in a row. Because we've had an experience where this was our former client. We kept reminding him, hey, renew your 13A, renew your 13A permanent. and then he came to us on the day that it expired. So basically, he had to start all over again.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty strict with their
Yeah.
rules. Yeah, you have to sort of be spot on.
Yeah. Unless you have a valid reason. So I had one client who, it took a while for him to get his visa renewed because his wife was giving birth. So what would you prioritize, right? Your wife giving birth
Yeah.
or you renewing your visa? And the wife actually had like a very hard pregnancy.
Oh.
So we filed, in his file for the 13A, we put a letter there and proof that he couldn't renew his visa because his wife was in the hospital for a couple of months.
Okay.
So as long as it's reasonable,
And they're okay.
it should be okay.
Good to know.
Yeah.
They're flexible with it if it's a good cause. Can you marry a Filipina in the U.S. and not have to deal with divorce laws in the Philippines? Yeah, I guess we were just chatting about that before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally separate. Oh wait, so how would that work? If you go and get married in the U.S., if you come back here, yeah, you have to register that marriage
Yes, that's
here
correct.
to get any 13A or get anything. So you can't bypass the law of marriage here by getting married somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, if the goal is to move to the Philippines after you've married the Filipina and you got married in the U.S. for, I don't know, maybe visa reasons, maybe it just was practical to do it that way. But if you want to get the 13A visa in the Philippines, then you have to declare that marriage if you're in the U.S., then any Philippine embassy should be able to do that.
Okay.
Or if you're already here, then you have to declare that marriage with the Department of Foreign Affairs. And then you can get your 13A.
But if you're gonna just stay in the U.S., you can bring your Filipina back there, get married there, and she doesn't have to have anything
Yeah.
registered here, unless you decide to come back and you want a 13A visa.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Makes
Well,
sense.
Yeah, I think just keep your options open.
Yeah.
I think when you marry a Filipina, just get her a visa or a passport there and get a visa here so you can, there's a lot of options.
And that's often the case, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's lots of family here. You're gonna want to probably come back and visit at a minimum. Good to have options on both sides for sure. Let's see. Oh, if you buy property with your Filipino wife and then you get divorced, does the Filipina keep it all? Does the foreigner basically lose out on all of that? Talk about the ownership with land, property, condo, and how that plays into a foreigner's ownership and what happens if they get divorced. Can the Filipina just say, "No, see ya, it's all mine now"?
Okay. Well, as a general rule, and this is in our constitution, foreigners cannot own lands in the Philippines. That's a general rule. But you can buy condominiums, 100% under your name, 100% title is with you. So now this is where the prenup comes in because that's a division of the property, right? If you don't have a prenup, then obviously it's 50-50. If you have a prenup, then it could be a different story. But let's say you bought a property together, say it's a land, and your wife is divorcing you. So just make sure that in the purchase of the property, your name is there, right? Because your wife is the owner of the property, but then your name is there, so she cannot sell the property without your signature. Also,
Huge.
if your wife, for example, she dies, and obviously both of you own the property, you have no right to own it, but you do have the right to dispose of the property. So dispose meaning you can sell the property, even if your wife has already passed.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I would suggest, if you are someone who likes to buy lands, I would suggest just creating a corporation, a domestic corporation between you and your wife. So you kind of have like a stake on it because the land becomes an asset to your company. And that protects you a lot better than just being in the title.
Gotcha. That was
Right.
my next question. Someone asked about that.
Oh,
So
really?
that's a way of a foreigner owning the land through the company.
Yes, it's not directly the foreigner owning the land. It's more of the corporation, which is 60% Filipino, 40% foreign, which still makes it a domestic corporation that can have the property as an asset. So that's also one way that you could do it.
Okay. So when it comes to selling it, I'm just trying to think of how to help understand this question for people. Like, someone was talking about how the Filipina can just boot you out. It's mine. It's all mine. But if you do it that way, is that the way you recommend doing it? Like,
Yeah.
do a corporation, and then you own it indirectly through the corporation, and that way you have a stronger protection of the
Yeah.
property and what happens with it.
Because the corporation cannot really sell any of its asset unless there's a board resolution. And you can't really transfer it because the registry of deeds is going to ask for a board
So
resolution.
she's kind of stuck too.
She's kind of
There's
stuck
not like
too.
a way that she can boot you out.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have to come to an agreement on selling it, and then
Yeah.
you said it's 60-40?
60-40.
So when it comes to selling it, is that how it would be divided? 60-40?
It really depends on what your agreement is. So I like even in creating a these things you just need to be creative about it. Even if you have a corporation, have like a separate agreement on how, especially if you're buying properties, how this is gonna play out. For example, if we want to sell the property or if we break up. So some of my clients, they have the corporation, then they have a separate agreement where if we break up, we are gonna sell this property, and this is the division of how the property is gonna be. So always have documentation. Don't just be like, I trust you, I can do this.
This is a very
You
tricky
never
thing,
know.
right? To have this conversation when you're falling in love with someone, and you're like, hold on, slow down. We need a prenup. We need a corporation between the two of us.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is, take your time. Don't just jump into a marriage.
Yes, yes.
Like, make sure you are with someone that you've sort of passed some hurdles of adversity to see, like, how are we going to handle situations before you jump into marriage.
Yeah.
Take your time.
I think at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to protect your own assets.
For sure.
That is not anyone else's responsibility. It's totally yours. So I would consult with a lawyer or a consulting agency like ours that can actually help you protect your best interests and have your best interests at mind.
So you guys will consult for all of this kind of stuff.
Yes.
C&G. Yeah. By the way, link is in the description, guys. Hit that. Free consultation. And you can just start the process and see if they're a good fit for you to help you out, which I'm most certain they are. And you guys really do a lot of everything.
We do a lot of everything, but I do have a lot of help from the people that I work with.
You have a good team.
I have a good team,
right.
yeah.
All right, moving on, guys. A few more things here in the comment section. Buy a property. Where can someone get a legal capacity to marry document? You already answered that, eh? Yeah. What happens if you don't get married? Oh, someone asked, what happens if you don't get married during the 90-day window of the spousal visa?
I think that is the US. They have this 90-day fiance visa that has nothing to do with the Philippines.
Okay. Isn't that a TV show too?
Yeah, it's 90-day fiance visa.
All right, I think we're pretty much at the end. The other one was talking about the investment visa. And if you set up a company, does it allow you to buy land? It's similar to what you just answered, but it's a little bit different. Can someone on his own or her own start a company and own land on their own without a Filipina if it's through a company?
No. So let me talk a bit about the investor's visa. So this is a special investor's resident visa, or what we call the SIRV. This is granted by the Board of Investments. So before they actually allowed for you to buy condo, and that would be your investment, condominiums, and that would be your investment. But now that's no longer allowed. Okay. So initial investment for the SIRV is 75,000 USD. Now you can invest it into either your publicly listed corporations or private corporations that are actually in the Investment Priorities Act of the Philippines. So those are two options with the investor's visa. Now, with regards to buying property, I think we discussed this earlier. You can actually do that with having a domestic corporation, but Filipinos have to be involved because, as a general rule, foreigners cannot own land in the Philippines. So if that's something that you want to venture out in, Filipinos will always have to be involved because, if it got to a point where expats can actually buy land in the Philippines, we would not own our country anymore.
It's a slippery slope. You need to open that up.
And expats would be like, this is not fair. Like, why can't we own lands in your country? I'm like,
it's a good law.
If we allowed you to do that, we would not have any land left, right? Like, even me, as a working class Filipino, I don't even think that the real estate prices are for me anymore. Like, it's for expats because you guys coming here are making all our properties being hyperinflated. It's still cheap. Yeah. It's still cheap for you guys. But for the
driving it up fast.
Yeah, for the average Filipino, it's really not for us anymore. Yeah, and it's sad.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. And it's happening. It's like picking up speed. Like there's so many people coming here now.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not helping by and you're part of the process. We're promoting the Philippines. Life is good here.
Yeah.
And we want to help people out. But that's kind of what goes with the territory when money starts pouring in.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I support it 100% because you guys are also, providing
a lot of economic activity.
Yeah, economic activities. You're promoting the country. But again, I'm just talking about the perspective of the average Filipino earning minimum wage. That is not a route that they can take. Or Like even for me, it's ridiculous at this point.
Right. Yeah. It's gone up a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for the questions. Guys, if you have more questions, certainly leave them in the comment section and I'll just make a future video when I'm here in Cebu and we can meet up with Heidi. Or even better, just contact Heidi, click the link, and that's your best bet because you're going to have follow-up questions. You've answered a lot, but there's still more questions to come.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do. There's a lot to learn about all this stuff. So she will help you out, or one of your team members will help you out.
Yes,
and
100%.
we did a lot of like marriage talk, but you guys do everything here. If you haven't watched the previous videos, retirement visas, you know, setting up corporations. What else? If you were to rattle off a few more things, like what do you guys do?
I mean, we do immigration and basically business registration, but it's mostly like helping expats get settled here in the Philippines. So if we can, we'll find a way. So prenup, last will, marriage license, we can give advice on that. Some people are asking us about insurances, real estate. I have a team that I can just like send you off to these people that they can actually help you depending on where you are.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
You have so many contacts, so you're a good place to start for just about everything here.
Yeah, and yeah, so I saw the last video that we did. There was a lot of like fighting over the comment section. Guys, I'm really not afraid to make a mistake. So if you do make a mistake, just say a comment, and then I would appreciate that so much. And you know, we none of us have a monopoly of information. So if you have other things that you want to add up, like go in the comment section and tell us about it.
Yeah, please do.
We'll be happy to start up the conversation.
Definitely.
Just don't be mean, because
well, for sure. No one likes that. We want to keep it positive for sure.
Yeah.
To kind of end it, we did this in the last video. There are other companies here, some bigger ones that people go to for this type of service. I like when you talk about what makes you guys unique.
Yeah.
And if you didn't watch those videos, I'll give you that opportunity. Why I think working with Heidi and her team is really great. So just real quick, what makes your company unique compared to the other
there are there's a lot of things, but honestly, I'm very passionate about working with expats. I've been dealing with expats since I was 7 years old. My parents owning a bar and a restaurant. All my entire life, I've been working for expats. And this is a personal passion of mine. And I want to be able to have a company that is kind of like a family where, you know, you can talk to each other, you can call me up. And in the future, I also want to build an expat community. And aside from that, we're also leaning into technology to better our services and better our processes. So there's a lot of things in store for C&G in the next coming years. So
it's a small company, is kind of cool. It's like a personal touch. You can call your personal cell and you'll help out. And you're growing, but I think you'll probably always keep that vibe within the company.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I take it as a personal responsibility, and this is what I always tell my employees. Like, we're not just getting a service and getting money and then, you know, that's done. No, it's more of, this is a serious business. This is a serious situation, because every time we help expats, we're actually in charge of their situation here in the Philippines. And as a foreigner, that can be daunting, right? And so in all of my employees, I'm always like, guys, this what we're doing is a huge deal. You have to take it seriously. You have to respect the process, because we are in charge of this person's life, right?
Exactly.
And their status here in the Philippines. So it's a huge
But
deal.
you can have fun at the same time. Hey, we're drinking beer as we talk about serious things to help you guys out. Cheers and happy birthday once again.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for you guys for watching, and see you in the next video soon. Leave a comment, any questions, or contact Heidi. Cheers.
Bye.